Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel and also welcome back to another edition of What to Do Wednesday. If you just so happen to be stopping by for the very first time, my name is Donella. Thank you so much for being here. If you are a returning subscriber, thank you so much for being here once again. Now for this video, I'm going to be breaking down step by step very basic makeup application in terms of complexion products. This was actually a requested video. One of my followers, she's a makeup enthusiast and she's fresh in the game, so she really wanted me to do a video breaking down, step-by-step makeup application from primer to foundation to concealer to contour and everything, powder, everything. So, if you want to stick around and you think you might learn a thing or two, then please stay tuned. Number one. Now, one of the very first rules of makeup application is priming. You have to use a primer whenever you're about to apply any sort of makeup to your face. Think of primer as like taking a shower or brushing your teeth. These things are in fact mandatory, so think of primer as that. It's absolutely mandatory that you apply this to your skin before you apply your foundation. It helps to keep your foundation in place throughout the day, number one. And number two, for oily skin persons like me, it actually helps to control the excess oil from breaking through my foundation. So I can't skip primer. Primer is a must for persons who have oily skin. Primers and powders. And also another thing to actually take note, you have to take a mental note of this, is that primer is actually a protective barrier for your skin, and it helps to keep your skin looking a lot younger for a longer period of time. I've read some claims that, if you don't use primer underneath your foundation, that it can age your skin quite quickly. I'm just saying. So if you're one of those persons who skip out on primer, then you might actually want to run somewhere and go and get a primer and realize that you're doing more damage to your skin by not using a primer. So this second step is something that is optional. I know that there are some persons who feel insecure about their blemishes, their acne scars, their hyperpigmentation, so they color correct. This is something that I no longer do. I haven't color corrected in almost like a year, going on like a year and a half, but it's something that I used to do quite often because I used to have a lot of acne scars from terrible breakouts. But you guys already know that your girl's skin has improved a lot over the year, so I no longer color correct. Number three would be your foundation. Now, whatever foundation that you're comfortable with using, I'm neither here or there about anybody's preference. If you prefer a full coverage foundation, if you prefer the compact type of foundations, those old school type, I don't really want to say old school because there's some, for instance, I know Lancome has that the cushion foundation that actually comes in a compact, and it's kind of like a liquid foundation in a compact, but it's very lightweight. So I don't want to use the word old school. Let's use the word vintage. Yeah, those vintage type foundation, if you're still into that, if you prefer a compact and you're not comfortable with using, like a bottle or anything like that, whatever your preference is, the next step would be to apply your foundation. Now, applying foundation is something that is a bit tricky for some persons. I know it took me a while to actually get the hang of this whole foundation thing. My foundation used to look terrible back in the day. I'm telling y'all now. Like, I literally used to just put foundation right here. My photos like back in like 2015, 2014, going back then, I was like, oh my God, why nobody never tell me I didn't put foundation all the way around here? Like, oh, around here is my face too. Why is my foundation only here? Why nobody tell me this? But I don't think it was actually that reason. I think it was probably more back in like 2012, maybe 2011, when I was kind of green in the business. But no, I think maybe in 2012 and 14, I think I would have gotten the hang of it. But yeah, there was one point when I used to only have foundation like here. It was awful. But I'm going to teach you guys a trick. one of the ways to actually reduce the amount of foundation that you apply to your face, for those of you who don't like the full-on, full coverage, heavy makeup, is that I actually use my fingertip to just apply little dots around my face, and then I usually focus on the right and the left side of my face first, and then whatever excess is left over, then I would put maybe 1 or 2 taps on my forehead. My forehead has the least amount of makeup, the least amount of foundation, the least amount of powder. And it's really because I sweat a lot in this area, so I tend to not put too much products in this area right here, because you know, when you start to sweat, you know, things start to slip and slide and start to look all gooey, and then you have to wipe it off. And then I don't know if anybody actually use a Bounty to kind of pat their makeup, but sometimes you can actually see like the little holes or the little decoration from the Bounty in your forehead. So I try as much as possible to reduce the amount of makeup that I apply in this area right here. Fourthly, or is it fifthly? I'm not really sure what number we are at, but the next step is all about comfort and technique. Whether you're comfortable with using a foundation brush, or if you're comfortable with using a beauty blender. And I'm talking about an actual original beauty blender. And I'm talking about all them other fake things you see running around on the market, those very hard sponges that try to imitate the beauty blender. I'm talking about the original beauty blender that's sold on Sephora and also sold on the beauty blender website. We're talking about all them other fake things. Please, if you are testing out, or sorry, if you're applying makeup for the very first time, you know, if you're fresh in the game, make sure that you have an original beauty blender, because it's much softer and it actually blends out your makeup a lot easier. Okay, so the next step is really to blend out your foundation. Now, blending out your foundation really is a technique. You don't really want to be doing like this and rubbing the foundation all over your face and having it look all splotchy. If you're using a beauty blender, what you do is that you lightly tap the area where you've applied the foundation and try to blend it out as much as possible. Now, this is actually 1 pump, so I would need a second pump. But for now, this is how I usually blend out my foundation. I usually focus on the left and right side of my face where I apply most of the products. As I said before, I only use a small amount of the products on my forehead area because I do sweat a lot up in that area. And it also helps to prevent the amount of makeup or makeup residue that would attach to my hairline, because we all know, you know, once you're wearing makeup and you're contouring and you're applying foundation and all that, that your hairline actually gets a bit of makeup in it. So that's one of the tricks that I do to reduce the amount of makeup residue that ends up on my hairline. I try as much as possible just to do a small amount of makeup in that area. As I said earlier, you know, when I was roasting myself with my makeup application, I only used to apply makeup in this area right here. But now that I'm grown and sexy, yes, you know, and I'm way better at this makeup application thing, you know, I focus more of the products on the left and the right side, and then I would go around in circular motions and focus on my jawline and then a bit below my cheek, and then I kind of go all the way around from my right all the way to my left side and just continue to blend out the foundation as much as possible. Now, I don't really put a lot of foundation below my eyes, because I just feel like, you know, I'm about to apply concealer below it to highlight, and then I have to apply powder to set it. And you know, over time, because your eye, the skin area below your eye is so sensitive, and it's probably one of the areas that, you know, develop fine lines the easiest. And I just feel like, you know, the less product that you use in this area, the longer that your skin and your under eye area tends to look more younger and more youthful. So I tend to just skip that area in terms of foundation and just kind of just blend out whatever excess foundation is there. And then, of course, you know, I use whatever is left back on the butt of the beauty blender to apply to my forehead area. That we've applied our foundation, the next step would be applying concealer, and the concealer that you're going to be using is a concealer that either is close enough to your skin's complexion, or some persons like a super bright highlight, so they tend to go maybe 2 or 3 shades lighter. It depends on your preference. Personally, I only go a shade lighter because I really don't like a super bright highlight. I just don't think that it goes well with my complexion. There's no way I'm going 2 to 3 shades lighter. That's gonna look scary. I usually highlight according to the shape of my face. I know some persons highlight here and here and here, here and here. Now you highlight according to the shape of your face. Because I have a very long face, I tend to more so focus on, well, let me just blend this out because I don't highlight this area at all. Some persons actually highlight the bridge of their nose as well. I skip that completely because of the shape of my face, and also because, you know, I don't think I need to highlight my nose. My nose is actually well pronounced. She ain't need no more highlighting. She's there. Okay, so these are the areas that I usually highlight, below my under eye area, just above my my 5 head, and I put a small bit on my cheek area. And one of the reasons why you highlight, because number one, nobody's face is the same color all around. The perimeter of your face is always darker than the innermost portion of your face. And number two, whenever you're taking a photo, whether it's a selfie or a professional photo, these are the areas where the lighting would hit mostly. So these are the areas that you would highlight. So whenever you see a portrait and it looks absolutely amazing, it's because that person's highlight is popping and it's on point. So these are the areas that I would highlight. And then once I feel that I've added enough concealer, then I would take my beauty blender and just start blending. The technique when it comes to blending out your concealer, because you don't really want to drag it and, you know, move the product around. What you really want to do is just go around the eye area in very light tapping motions and just basically press the product into your skin and kind of drag it, not really drag it, but kind of move it around the area that you want it to cover. And of course, you know, you can go in 1 or 2 more times if you feel like you need more coverage underneath your eyes. I know some persons use a color corrector before they apply their concealer because, you know, the under eye area is extremely dark. But I'm okay and I'm comfortable with just using just a concealer. So I think I might actually apply just 1 more layer of the concealer before I set it with my my translucent powder, whichever translucent powder I decide to use. So let me just go in 1 more time with a 2nd layer and just blend that out. Oh, and another way that you can actually another way to blend out your concealer is that my trick is to actually start from the bottom and then go up. I feel like I get more coverage that way. And you can also allow the concealer to dry down a bit, like especially the NARS Radiant Creamy. It's not a hard concealer to blend out. So if you allow it to dry down for maybe 1 or 2 minutes, it's still going to blend out seamlessly. So that's another trick you can do to get full coverage out of your concealer. Now before I move on to setting my highlight in place, I like to apply my cream contour. Now I'm sure you guys can see that around the perimeter of my hairline, you can see where the foundation ends and where it actually begins, whichever way you want to put it. And this is where contouring slash bronzing actually comes into play. Whenever you contour slash bronze, then that's where everything actually blends together and you're unable to see where the foundation ends slash begin. So contouring or bronzing is actually very, very important as well. Not as important as you know, priming your skin. You can use your brush or your beauty blender to blend out this area without using a contour or a bronzer. There are some persons who actually prefer to skip that step. Persons who have a very strong chiseled jawline, they tend to skip the whole contouring step because they find that it kind of leans over into the whole drag queen type of look. So some persons tend to skip that step if they have a really chiseled jawline. For me now, because I have a long face and I like to play up with my features, I actually think my best features are my cheeks and my lips. So I love to contour so I get that type of Janet Jackson pouty cheek type of look. And I love to apply colors to my lips because I think I have really great shaped lips. I'm not trying to, you know, like blow my horn or anything here, but I've been told that over a number of years, so I'm convinced. Plus, they're mine, and I look at them every day, so I think they're really great lips. So the next step is to either apply contour. Now you can use a cream or powder contour, whichever one is your preference, or you can just skip the step completely. For me, I prefer to use cream contours and then set it with a powder. So I'm just going to go in with this black opal foundation stick. Now this is not a contour stick, by the way, but I love to improvise. Like whenever I run out of something, or if I find something that I really love, and I really love the black opal foundation sticks to use as a contour. So I've been using this for almost, actually, since 2018 began. I've been using this. You know, whenever I went out, I just run to the store and get another one because I love it. It has just the right amount of red hue. It has this reddish undertone. Now whenever you're contouring, the same rule applies with highlighting. Some persons prefer to contour the perimeter of their face. Some persons prefer to contour their nose, just below their bottom lip area, their chin, the two jawline areas. There are times when I would actually do that. It depends on how I feel. If I want a really chiseled look, then I would do that, or I would just skip that step completely and just focus more so on the basic contour, the basic contouring of my face. And my face is long shaped, so the majority of times I would have to contour the highest part, sorry, the hollow parts of my cheek, and then my forehead area. And then of course, after you do that, you would go in with your beauty blender or your brush, whichever one you're comfortable with using, and then you have to blend and blend and blend that out until it is melted into your foundation or your skin seamless. Now contouring, just like highlighting, is all about technique. Because I have a very long face, I tend to focus more so on the contour on my jawline, my cheek area. So I would go from here all the way back to my ear. So my contour would start from here and end right here. And then of course, you know, it goes around the perimeter of my face. And the same thing on my left side. I blend her out. And the technique here is really blending the highlight with the contour, so everything looks seamlessly, everything looks put together, nothing like it's out of place. Excuse me. And then of course, you have to blend out whatever contour you may have applied to your jawline as well. There are some persons who actually go all the way in terms of doing that whole chiseled, sculpted look. You know, they would not only highlight their nose bridge area, but they would also contour within this area as well. Personally, I prefer skipping those steps entirely because I'm okay with how my nose looks. So the next step would actually be setting both my highlight and my contour. And I'm going to be using my Sacha Buttercup powder to set my highlight with. And I can't remember the last time I actually baked. I've been kind of using my beauty blender, my damp beauty blender, and more so pressing the translucent powder or the buttercup powder into my skin. I feel like it looks more beautiful that way. I feel like, you know, I don't look extra dusty, or, you know, I have to try extra hard with trying to dust away the excess powder. I prefer using my damp beauty blender and just pressing it into my skin. I just feel like it looks more flawless that way. That's just me personally. You actually have to apply the buttercup powder in the areas where you apply the highlight / contour on the areas of your face. because these are the areas that you want to set with the translucent powder. And the same will applies whenever you're about to set your contour, whatever contour powder that you want to use to set your contour in place. You have to go over the areas that you applied the cream contour to set it in place so that it doesn't move. Personally, I prefer using one of my MAC, what is this? Studio Fix powders. The same rule applies whenever you are setting your contour in place. You can use whatever contour powder that you have to set your cream contour in place. Personally, I love using this this MAC Studio Fix powder to set my contour in place because I use the Black Opal foundation stick, which can come off kind of heavy sometimes because I do have a heavy hand, and I just feel like the Studio Fix powder is kind of lightweight and it doesn't cake up or anything like that. So I actually prefer just applying a light layer of it over my cream contour just to set it in place. And then I'm just going to go over the areas where I applied contour, the cream contour, and just make sure that everything is set. This next step is also optional. You don't necessarily have to do this, but what I do, I like to go in with another one of my MAC powders. This one is the Mineralized Skin Finish in the shade Deep Dark or Dark Deep, I don't even know. And what I like to do is press my flat kabuki brush inside the compact, and then I would just gently soup away, yes, that's the word, whatever excess translucent powder might be laying around. And this also helps to diffuse whatever hash lines that might have appeared between the contour and the highlight. I don't know if some persons can actually see the hash lines, but once you actually blend everything in together, you know, once you diffuse all the hash lines, then everything should look seamlessly and flawlessly. And then I would take the same brush again that I use to set my cream contour and just go over it once again until I feel like I'm satisfied with how everything looks. Okay, so now that we have on our primer, our foundation, our concealer, our powders, our highlight, like over here. Yes, I want to get a tad bit dolled up. Y'all know I love my highlights, so, you know, I had to put a bit on so I can pop in on camera. Now, this final step is something that is completely optional. You don't necessarily have to wear a setting spray. I know persons that have, you know, normal skin type tend to skip out on the whole setting spray bits. But persons like me, you know, I need all the help I can get. I have oily skin, so priming is a must for me. Using powders is a must for me, and using a setting spray is definitely a must for me. But if you feel like you're okay with just applying, you know, just a powder, and you're okay with, you know, skipping the whole setting spray bit, even if you don't have normal skin, even if you have oily skin like me, and you want to skip out on applying, you know, just using one less product on your face, and that's completely fine. That's your choice. For me, I want my makeup to last as long as I want it to last, so I use a setting spray, and I use everything that I know that I have to use for persons who have oily skin. My beauties, that is it for this tutorial. I really hope that you guys might have learned a thing or two from me. If you did, please be sure to drop me a comment down in the comment section, and, you know, just tell me a little bit that you learned. You know, you're like, hey girl, I didn't know this, and you said this, and, you know, that's something that I might try to do in the near future when I'm applying my makeup. You know, something. I'm hoping that I taught somebody something. If you happen to have enjoyed this video, please be sure to give it a big thumbs up on your way out. And if you have not already subscribed to my channel, please be sure to click the subscribe button on your way out. And until my next upload, until a next edition of What to Do Wednesday, I'll talk to you guys real soon. Bye bye.